Well, good morning again, everyone. This is John Barr. I'm here with Kelly Lapatino and Amy Julian. Amy, thank you for your support in setting this up. The purpose of this session today is to go over the key requirements of the Notice of Funding Opportunity to support workforce services for low and moderate income individuals, with the emphasis on support for immigrants, migrants, and refugees. Just some background as far as the need. The State Unified Plan for workforce services in Illinois includes an outline of those um, populations and individuals that should be targeted for workforce services with additional outreach. And in addition to that, American Community Survey indicated that there's close to 1 million immigrants in Illinois, including or 1.8 million immigrants in Illinois, including nearly 1 million naturalized citizens. Illinois Immigration Task Force released a report in 2023 that just highlighted the importance of how immigrants play a key role in the labor force, and immigrants, migrants, and refugees is noted in a number of reports, may need additional assistance and resources to assist in obtaining and retaining employment, and not only employment, but employment on a career path to a good job. Obviously, your roles as part of the local workforce innovation areas and your oversight administration of the American Job Centers, that is your focus, that is your mission. That is why this Notice of Funding Opportunity is specifically targeted to only local workforce area Title I-B administrators. The performance goals for these funds are pretty straightforward as far as number of individuals recruited, assessed, enrolled, and completing the program. We do have some other typical outcomes and measures, but we also understand that some of the tracking of this may be a challenge. So I will say at the outset that the state is definitely willing to work with grantees on those longer term outcomes. So with that, I want to turn it over to Kelly, who's going to go through kind of the key program activities, kind of the program design for this funding opportunity.
Good morning. Thanks, John. So as John mentioned, we're going to go through some of the program activities. These are outlined here. It's certainly outlined in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, so you can read through in a little bit more detail, but do want to go through some of these program activities that are outlined and listed here. Next slide, please. So certainly looking at programming with an equity focused and looking at your program with that lens is really important. We're looking for applicants to demonstrate how the program will increase individual access to enrollment, completion, and retention. So as John alluded to, it's not just about securing employment, but really looking at career pathways for individuals and providing training and opportunity that can help support them with an equitable focus. The application should outline how the programs will address different industry barriers for individuals in hiring, advancing, retention, and earning. We really are looking for program models that demonstrate partnership and recruitment and barrier reduction services. So looking at the target audience, there's a number of barriers that may need to be addressed as part of this initiative and these efforts. And so this funding allows that opportunity to do so. In the competitive application process, we do ask that you explain how the program will develop digital skills aligned with targeted industry sectors, including digital literacy, how to increase confidence and competence with the use of digital literacy, Some of it might be just understanding and navigating the US job markets, right? The local labor market. How do you apply online? How to create a resume, some of those functions and features that can be available through the public workforce system and through resource rooms at American Job Centers. And then applicants should outline strategies for fostering shared identity in the program, creating a welcoming and inclusive environment, really, again, focusing equity and making sure that that's evident in the program design through partnerships and successful transition and retention. Next slide, please. So in terms of outreach and recruitment, we were looking for applicants to provide details about the strategies to attract either adults or youth to programs when applying for this opportunity, as well as explaining how their process will ensure fairness and inclusivity towards eligible participants. The outreach plan should align with data analysis that demonstrates the population to be served, and that it should also consider cultural relevance and identify occupational disparities to help applicants make informed decisions about their participation. One of the things that we see in looking at data is that individuals that are immigrants arriving to the US, have a lot of transferable skills and have prior industry experience in similar high growth in demand industries that we have in our local areas or regional areas, specifically in the Northeast region. And so really in recruitment, looking at occupational opportunities that just because they have that experience, how do we help them get those industry recognized credentials to transfer those skills and that related experience? Next slide, please. So certainly employer engagement is critical. We can provide as much training as we want, but at the end of the day, it's important to connect individuals to employment opportunities. So really working with some key employer champions, really helping to focus on some employer-led initiatives. We did recently host a statewide employer-led webinar. We can certainly follow up and share that link as well. Just encouraging employers to implement their own practices in terms of supporting this target population. So that resource link is available, we'll follow up with. But certainly having those employer champions and taking a leadership role in developing and supporting those career pathways and really helping to integrate work-based learning opportunities. We have many employers that are interested in developing their own mentorship program within the workplace or offering English language classes within the workplace. So those are several examples of how employers can also help support initiatives as well. So really looking for that business commitment to help support and engage in this process. Certainly career planning is something that's critical to these efforts. So having a customer-centered approach in the delivery of services to prepare and coordinate comprehensive career and employment plans for individuals going through. Really looking at different workforce activities that individuals can access, as well as support services during program participation. We really want to ensure that successful career planning is collaborative and that it is an ongoing process in helping individuals prepare for employment, leading to self-sufficiency. So certainly integrating into the workplace and into society may have some challenges, and so really helping to understand some of those challenges and help support those through career planning is important. Certainly access to assessments, career readiness activities, preparation and training is important as well, and then any sort of follow-up support to help connect job seekers to employment. Training services are part of this initiative. A program certainly must lead to measurable skills gain, so looking at industry recognized credentials or post-secondary credentials that align with the customer's choice for their career pathway. Specifically, that training should be identified and consistent with their assessments and IEP. So really, again, helping develop those career plans and helping individuals navigate through the system, what training they might need to access, and support to both access training, enroll in training, and obviously successfully complete training as well. Looking also at prior industry credentials that again, we have a lot of individuals that may have that prior work experience, but that credential doesn't transfer to the US job market. So helping to lend that support to obtain that industry recognized credential to secure employment, should they choose to stay in that industry of choice, in that field of choice, or even exploring different career pathway opportunities. So really identifying what those work-based learning could help accelerate that individual's opportunity and career advancements. Next slide, please. So supportive services are certainly key and essential. We know that there's significant barriers to employment, especially for a lot of individuals that may have housing insecurity. There may be a number of different factors that go into this where individuals may need some additional support. So certainly this, is not all inclusive, but a comprehensive list of a variety of different support services that could be available to individuals underneath this initiative to help support them in training leading towards employment. Next slide, please. Barrier reduction is certainly another component that could be embedded into this initiative. So really helping to increase family stability and job retention. So looking at some emergency costs, some initial costs. We have a lot of employers that are interested in hiring and even offering some relocation assistance to individuals. So again, working very closely with employers on this as well, because it's not just about, finding job placement, right? How do we help secure individuals both obtaining employment, but then also retaining employment as well, and addressing any barriers to both successfully completing training leading towards employment. Next slide, please. So placement obviously is one of the primary goals of the program. When we're looking at applications, including several job placement services, really looking at the current infrastructure, right? What do we have that's existing in the public workforce system, but how can this additional funding help support some of the primary objectives here with this funding opportunity? So outreach and networking with employers on employment needs, really understanding and helping to lift up awareness for employers. We have a lot of employers that are very interested in engaging in certain target populations that maybe they just haven't always focused on, right? And so helping them to diversify their workforce is really important, and really engaging businesses with hiring and recruiting opportunities to support that as well. Also identifying potential gaps. So they may have existing workforce that with some additional support, they could upskill their existing workforce and then also backfill with individuals that are coming through this initiative in this pipeline. So that is something else to be considered in terms of placement and support. We encourage you utilizing the existing infrastructure and framework that we have for the virtual job fair, encouraging employers if they want to host a virtual job fair. We would encourage them to also offer job fairs in different languages and have recruiters that are bilingual that can help support individuals with recruitment and retention into their workforce. That is certainly an infrastructure as part of the Get Hired initiative, and then also the Illinois Job Link. So that's another resource that serves as a job matching system. All of the individuals that are going through temporary protective status workshops in the Chicagoland area are getting information on how to sign up for Illinois Job Link as an additional resource that they can access. Next slide, please. So follow-up services are certainly critical and helping to encourage individuals, to advance in their career pathways, encouraging employers to be inclusive with their hiring practices and advancement practices. These are several different avenues to follow up to ensure successful completion and support job retention. So again, this is not all inclusive, but gives you an overview of different opportunities to provide some of that follow-up support. Definitely that ongoing communication and navigating in that workplace integration is critical. Program assessment, looking at your program model and what assessments can be included to enhance program delivery. So that could be follow-up surveys to individuals, just ensuring that the training activities provided the necessary support. Are there some additional supports that may need to be addressed? Sometimes these things come up a little bit later, right? And, as you're navigating through, different things may surface and pop up. And so, continuous assessment of the program model is really important, both on the participant side, but then also on the employment side, working with employers and partners. So we know this work is not done alone. It just requires a significant uplift, working with other community-based organizations and nonprofit organizations that really lead a lot of efforts for supporting immigrants and resettlement as well. So if you are not connected with your 34 Illinois welcoming centers through DHS across the state, we would highly encourage that as an opportunity as well, to just really kind of look at it from a holistic standpoint and really assessing some of the program models and deliveries. Next slide, please. So we'll talk a little bit about the funding. John, I think I'll hand it over to you if you want to go through some of these details here.
All right, great. So the funding is through the General Revenue Fund. We anticipate having approximately $1.9 million available. We're anticipating having 1 to 3 grants, ranging from $250K to $1.9 million. Pre-award costs will most likely be allowed. Obviously, those aren't guaranteed until you have an award in place. We'll work with our legal office and your team to identify, the kind of the appropriate look back. I would say, with a high degree of certainty, looking back to costs incurred, to January 1, but with a potential going back to July of 2024. I'm sorry, July of 2023, through June 30. That is an important point as far as the term of this award. It is currently set to end 6/30 of 2024. As far as eligibility goes, we are looking for local workforce innovation areas in the Northeastern Illinois economic development regions. Local areas can come in as a team, as a full region. We've got flexibility around that, but it is based on the data number of immigrants, migrants, and refugees. Based on that data, this funding is limited to the Northeast region. The application requirements are pretty straightforward. The intent here is not to have you go through an extensive process. The program requirements and the application should be very familiar for all of you, as far as the different components that are required for this additional state funding. So if there are elements within the application document that are not applicable to you, just indicate that in your application. If there are areas where you need to expand or provide additional information, that is absolutely an option for you to include in your application. We provided the core, kind of those core requirements. We understand that this is an extremely aggressive timeline and an extremely challenging set of workers. Low, middle income immigrants. There's a challenging population to work with many barriers, and so we understand there's not a one size fit all. And that we're looking for you to innovate strategies that you potentially already have in place, that it can expand and scale up and deploy these resources to support many of those efforts. It's not to say that we're not interested in, developing something extremely quickly and getting it out on the street. And we'll talk about the potential for additional time and funding here in a minute. As far as the application review criteria, it's kind of our standard, right? So this is a a formal NOFO, right? So we, going through this process, we will assess each of the applications based on your capacity, need, quality, and the budget. We do intend to have a quick turnaround time with this. And again, we'll have a team of staff that will review, score, and then connect with those applicants that at least hit the kind of that minimum threshold, to see where we stand as far as negotiating a grant, and we would do that in pretty short order here. Um, our intent is to have a funding decision by April 1st. We're asking for interested areas to submit their applications as soon as possible. We will pull all of the applications that we receive by March 15th, and we will review those, and then based on those that meet the minimum threshold, we'll go into negotiations. The NOFO will remain open in case we don't get enough applications to speak for the $1.9 million. But just know that, after March 15th, we may receive enough applications to cover all of those funds. Note that the project end date, based on the information that we have today, is 6/30 of 24. We are hopeful that this date would be extended if funding were included in the state fiscal year 2025 budget. That's an uncertainty that we have. Obviously, legislature is working through the state budget process right now, so we'll have some more information in March, but we most likely won't have this piece of the puzzle to fit in, and so we would advise you to plan for essentially a 3-month project with the possibility of pre-award activities if they fall within the scope of the project and are reasonable, and we can work that out with our legal and accountability offices. Here are some resources here. This is the link to the application and all of the other required documents. So the formal notice of funding opportunity supplement that goes into more detail around the program design and requirements, and also includes all of the other required attachments that we talked very briefly about, and I'll go back and outline here. So obviously, with this being a formal notice of funding opportunity, you must submit, that uniform budget, that uniform application, kind of that cover sheet, the conflict of interest and disclosure statements, as well as the program application that has, again, a lot of flexibility in how you present that information, but realize that your technical proposal is going to be judged, or the whole proposal will be judged based on capacity, need, project quality, and budget. So that concludes the I guess the slide deck. Open up for any questions that you might have.
Tamar, you have your hand raised.
Good morning. This is actually Antonio Garcia. Good morning. I just logged in with the same Zoom account user here. But good morning, Kelly. Good morning, John. I have a question on the NOFO on page 7, the very first paragraph. Not sure if this is a typo or would like clarification, where it says the period of performance is expected to be April 1st, 2024 through June 2024.
Oh yeah, that would let's see. So say that. Hold on. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, it's the NOFO page 7, first paragraph.
Sure.
Does it say, sorry, I'm pulling it up too. It has an official start date of April 1st until June.
It talks about the awards, so it reads anticipated start date for awards is April 1st, 2024. The
Correct.
period of performance is expected to be April 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024, with possibility of additional funding for projects identified in this NOFO if funding is included in the state of Illinois fiscal year 2025 budget.
Yes, you read that right. It is
not a-
shocking. It is shocking. This is a warp speed NOFO. You know, as it relates to, you know, this funding source, we are looking towards the second half of the state fiscal year, and this was identified as a priority to get additional resources out on the street. That's the good. The bad is the timeline that we know for certain that we have on this. We know for certain we've got 3 months from the point that we'll be in a position to make awards. We are hopeful that that timing will be extended, but at this point, we can't give that commitment.
Thank you. And just a follow-up question, of Damar is actually typing in the chat.
Yeah.
We have the same question is, you know, could we partner with local community-based organizations to deliver this program? As an example, we do have ASIS, who's a local kid, that's all they do, right? They actually can identify who has work permit, who's in the process of getting their work permit in order within this population. So that partnership would be crucial for us in order to meet this timeline.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I think the answer is probably. We have all of the budget lines are available for subrecipients and and contractors. We will have to work with our legal and accountability offices to just verify on a project by project basis, you know, what that look back period is. As I mentioned, I think we're fairly confident that going back to January 1 would be considered. But it's important also to note, though, that those activities would have to be consistent with the scope of work, and, you know, kind of what, you know, the focus of the funding is. So it isn't, I don't want to characterize this funding as, okay, well, it's a catch-all, you know, additional pool just to throw out and could be utilized for, you know, quote unquote, any you know, any services for low income immigrants, migrants, refugees, right? It is specific. There needs to be that kind of that workforce focus, and again, consistent with your scope of work.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up to that. If we do partner with the organization, could we use some of those funds to pay for salaries for an individual at that organization in order to deliver the program?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think just to piggyback on a program perspective, you bring up a good point. Partnership is really highly encouraged with this. So if you have organizations like your legal service organizations or immigrant focused organizations that are leading efforts to help support that work authorization, that's where that collaboration and that handoff comes in, right? And so individuals that have applied and maybe they're waiting for work authorization, that is something that is considered. How do you provide those supports? That is certainly allowable. So if somebody has pending work authorization, you can still provide pre-employment support, helping to prepare them with an anticipation that once they receive work authorization, they'll be better prepared for employment opportunities.
Thank you. Perfect.
Any other questions?
Amy has a question on retroactive pay for costs that are currently covered. So meaning a pre-award cost.
Yeah, I don't think I'm seeing that one in the chat. I may be having a technical issue.
It's okay. I'm seeing it on the it's under the Q&A section.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. Okay. Can this be retroactive pay to cost cover that is cost is covered currently? Yeah, we think yes. Again, I think that we have a fairly high degree of a high level of confidence going back to January 1. Going back, beyond that, I think is really going to be on a case by case basis on the projects. We have funding authorization going back to July 1 of 2023. That would be the latest date that would be allowable. But again, we would have to look at it on a project by project basis. So I would answer bottom line, I would say possibly. And if you have and if you have scenarios that you want to raise, we can definitely take a look at those. We technically will have to do it through a Q&A that gets sent out to everybody, but we'll make it broad enough, to hopefully answer, kind of questions for all, and make, kind of give different scenarios. So if you have those and you want us to do like some, kind of work immediately on that, we're definitely open for those questions. So as you analyze this, send those over, and we will start getting those reviewed, because I understand that could impact what you submit, and we don't want to wait until the 15th of March to give you that answer.
All right, either Damar or Antonio, somebody's got their hand raised. So
Okay.
whoever's got their hand raised, go ahead and talk.
Hi, this is Eva Locke.
Uh,
Also Title I, or also LWIA 1. So just a question, I'm kind of processing this and thinking about our adult education partners who are already doing great work in this space. Are they in consideration as, I don't know, sub-grantees for this?
yeah. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I would say absolutely, but I would just look at sustainability though with what you're leveraging. So making sure that you're leveraging existing adult education program services, not offsetting something that's already allocated to support these efforts. But if there's an opportunity to partner to expand on programming and services, that would certainly be allowable and something highly encouraged under these efforts.
Okay, thank you.
So an example could be like a pre-hiring resource fair, kind of leveraging their existing enrollment with adult education. It could even be expanding adult education. So again, an example previously was, working with employer partners on providing adult education services within their own workforce. So those could be, just several examples, but really helping to address, individuals that maybe are enrolled in an adult education program that, again, are looking for employment opportunities. So bridging those opportunities together, and certainly also looking at work-based learning opportunities would be, encouraged and supported.
Okay. But Title I would be the administrator of the grant. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
correct.
Got it.
Amy, I saw something that came in for TPS, but I don't see it now.
I think it says we'd like to have this grant cover some of our work at the TPS workshops.
Yeah, so that would be fine. That's allowable. That's all TPS EAD workshops are all there's legal workforce processing taking place that are helping to support work authorization leading towards employment. So those would be allowable expenditures.
Yeah, again, I mean, I think it would be going backward, same answer kind of as far as January probable. But going back further, we'd probably need some more information to look at just the general parameters of just some more details so we can just connect back with our legal and budget folks.
Yeah, that was the same question in the Q&A. Can these
Yeah.
funds be paid for retroactively?
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Okay, going once, going twice.
John, one more from Amy.
Okay.
Thinking about a pay per performance. Oh, I couldn't get that one out. For back work, so a fee for each contact.
Like a fee for each contact. Let us get back to you on that one. I
Yeah,
think that we need to we'll need to discuss that internally.
I think something maybe similar to that would be to offset cost for any sort of career pathway navigators that are helping to lift up outreach and follow-up efforts to help navigate and connect individuals. So that would be something that would be allowable.
Okay. Well, just one more call for questions, and then if anything else comes up, and if you have, you know, some more detailed scenarios, and want to send those over to Kelly and copy me, we will get working on those, and we'll repost the answers. Okay, another one came in around reporting and tracking, and so we would not put them in we would not put participants in IWDS unless they're Title I co-enrolled. We would not at this point have a system available in WorkNet. Is that right, Kelly? That
Yeah.
is so these would be utilizing local participant tracking methods. And so we know that's not ideal. But this is, you know, kind of where we're at. We would ask for each grantee to provide you know, the report based on those measures that are included in the NOFO as far as the activity and the outcome. We recognize that without a formal tracking system, some of those may be very difficult to obtain, and that we would work with the grantee, you know, to develop data reporting and kind of outcome tracking. But we're open to ideas around that. I will be, you know, very blunt in that we don't have all of the answers for this specific source of funding. But would at a minimum need to see what your plan is as far as number recruited, enrolled, and completers, and those types of activities. And we'd be looking for your local methods of tracking that, and then also reporting that back up to the state. Will the files have to have, go ahead, Kelly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say yes, they need to have a basic intake and an IEP, just to show consistency with enrollment in the program and ensuring customer choice along with career pathway and programs and services, as well as supporting, you know, providing supportive services and barrier reduction aligned with the IEP.
And then, of course, like and if you do have an individual, a participant that does go into, you know, short-term training, just obviously they would have to make sure that they comply with the Illinois Professional Vocational Schools Act. They don't have to be on the WIOA eligible training provider list, but they do have to meet the requirements of the state board's Professional Business School Act. That's just an area of emphasis that I know many of you are aware of. And if you're not, this is a notice around that we've identified, just some of these providers, especially the not the traditional community colleges or established training providers, having some difficulty complying with or are not complying with that registration. So just again, if you're thinking of doing short-term training, they don't have to be on ETPL, but they better make sure that they're up to date on their Professional and Business Schools Act registration with the state board.
And this may also be an opportunity to put together cohorts of customized training and have some contract training, just given the time frame and the number of individuals that maybe you anticipate serving.
Okay. So there's a lot to unpack here. We understand that. If you do have questions along the way, we definitely want your feedback. Please don't feel like you have to wait until March 15th. We know this is a warp speed and very aggressive timeline, and we're hopeful that there are activities that can scale up and utilize this funding in a short period of time. We're also hopeful that we'll have some additional time flexibility, but until we know for certain, we want to just really focus in on what we have until June 30 of 2024. So with that, one last call for any final questions, then we'll wrap up.
No, I'll just, John, thank you for the information. I'll just kind of recap with the intent also with having some of this additional supplemental funding is to offset and leverage what you currently have available, right, with DCO other programs, formula funding. However, we do know in looking at this target population, especially individuals with temporary protective status, that it is temporary by nature, right? And so, individuals that are coming in with work authorization, sometimes this availability of funding may lend itself to offering some support specific for this target audience that really are looking for some temporary assistance, possibly in a pathway to citizenship, but knowing that also individuals that have work authorization, it will open up an opportunity for them and, really helping to integrate and assimilate within that local community, and having some of this additional funding to help support those efforts is really the premise of this.
Okay. Well, thank you again. We understand this is very short notice. We will make this recording and the presentation available, for all. Expect a follow-up email to come out after the holiday next week. And again, keep those questions coming in, and appreciate all the work you're doing and your interest in this opportunity. Have a great day and a nice long weekend for some.